This is your spoiler warning for In the Forest of the Night. If you haven't seen this episode and you haven't seen the whole of Series 8 or the whole of Capaldi's run, I'll probably start waffling about other things that happen later on, so this is just a spoiler warning for all of that. In the Forest of the Night is an episode that I always thought was awful, but actually I quite enjoyed this time round. It's got some bad messaging, like Kill the Moon does, but I don't think it's actually anywhere near as bad as I remember it being. Maybe I'm just stupid. I think it's quite well written. There's bits that come back round, like Clara making the kids write the date down, like, you know, love, trust more, you know, stuff like that. It all comes back round. Overall premise is everyone wakes up and London and the whole of the world has been covered over by a big forest. And there's the themes of, like, the forest's always really creepy to humans. We always have, like, fairy tales where there's creepy forests and things like that. So it's interesting. I find it interesting. I like it. It's decent. First things first, though, why was there, like, a navigation person on the TARDIS being like, you have reached your destination? We've never had that before. I think it was just thrown in there because it's like, well, we need to show that we're in the place that we need to be, instead of just showing it on a screen and be boring. Let's add this voice in, but we've never seen the voice before, so it sort of just fell a bit flat. IMO. Danny this episode is brilliant. I love Danny Pink. I love his authoritative nature. This episode shows it really, really well because he's always trying to guide the kids to be a team, and I just love just how nice he is. Like, when he woke up, the first thing he said was, right, before we go anywhere, gather your sweet wrappers and things that you might have generated overnight from midnight feasts or whatever. And it just, I don't know, I just really like him as a character. I don't know how people don't. And at the end, especially when he's like, Clara, I don't care what the truth is, I just want to know the truth. I said back in Mummy, or whatever episode it was, where she just starts lying to him about travelling with the doctor. Why, Clara? He'd be fine with you travelling with the doctor. You don't need to lie about it. So, yeah, it's just moments like that I really, really like about Danny. But why are the schools sleeping over? Why are they sleeping over at a museum? Like, it seems like such a weird place for a school sleepover, you know what I mean? But maybe they just had to travel far. I don't know. But I suppose it is what's it called? Like a special, what's it called? Like the gifted and talented scheme. So maybe it's different. Maybe it was a special school trip they've been building up to for ages. But I just found it a bit weird that they were staying over at a museum. It doesn't seem like the kind of place that there'd normally be a school trip stereotypically. Also, one of the girls, Ruby, I think, the ginger one, that's Harley Bird. She's Peppa Pig. She voices Peppa Pig. I recognised it because I'd seen a meme online about her. And it was where she was like, oh, I'd go around the... She was on this morning. And she was like, oh, yeah, me and my brother, we'd go around the park, like, snorting, you know, doing lines. Obviously talking about snorting like a pig, going... and doing the lines from Peppa the Pig. But it sounds like she was saying just going around snorting, doing lines, which was funny for me at the time. We see Clara and Danny take their different priorities when it comes to an adventure. Clara keeps asking Danny, like, the big question is, did the trees appear overnight or did we sleep for so long? And Danny's like, no, the big question is, how do we get these kids home? Clara was imagining Danny was the doctor in that situation. She wants the adventure. She wants the doctor. She wants to ask the questions of, like, how did this happen? Why is this happen? Blah, blah, blah. But Danny's like, I don't care about that. I want to make sure these kids get home safe. And I love that because it reflects how both of their pasts, really. Whereas Clara's she's always after something. Whereas Danny's more of just like a calm, cool, collected person. Like in the army, he wants to lead the team home. That's the end goal. Whereas Clara's just seeking the next adventure all over the place. And I find it quite interesting seeing their dynamics clash because they do get on really well. They do have great chemistry, but they are very different people. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think in media especially, they show relationships to be these two people who are in love and have loads in common, but a lot of the time in real life, like, you don't actually have loads in common. Your main characteristics aren't in common. They say opposites attract, but not to say they have to, like, hate each other and be into completely different things. They do have stuff in common, but I like seeing the different ways they function. Like I say, Clara loves the doctor for an adventure, whereas Danny just wants to just get the kids home and do his duty. And Danny's always had a thing about doing his duty, and his duty here is to get the kids home. And so is Clara's duty too, but, you know, she's getting distracted by the potential adventure on the horizon. I quite like the way that 12 reacts to kids, or, like, acts around kids, because 11 was very, like, kid-friendly, and he got on with kids more than adults a lot of the time. Whereas 12's quite grumpy and not aggressive, but, like, he sort of shrugs them off instead of like humouring them like Eleven would. And I quite like that because I'm like that with kids. I'm not a big fan of kids, if I'm completely honest. Even like kids in my family, I'm sort of just like, I find them a bit annoying. Something about them grinds my gears. I put up with them, obviously. I'm not mean to them like 12 is, but a lot of the things 12 was saying, like, get off the console, don't touch that, ask your teacher, is the sort of things that I think in my head that I'd never say out loud, obviously. And there's nothing, it sounds quite bad, but no, I like the way 12 acts around them. Why does Clara have Maeve's phone number? I suppose she's vulnerable, actually. Stupid point to write down. She's vulnerable, needs the phone number. I'm going to have to pull a Kill the Moon when I say, like, ignoring the messaging. The whole, if your child's hearing voices, don't shut them up thing. Don't give them tablets. Let them hear the voices and let them tell you what they're on about. Stupid messaging. Very, very stupid. But I do like it in this story, though. I am very happy with it in this story. I don't think it's if it was, I don't know, because it is sort of putting that message out there. It could have been dealt better. They could have, like, I think 12 says it too many times. If he'd have just said it once, then maybe I'd be like, right, within the story, this works. But he does say it, like, even at the end, like, you learn to shut up. You learn to listen to the voices. What are you on about, man? Come on. The voices, if you hear voices, take medication. Please don't listen to the 12th Doctor and start running around forest doing that. Please, take your tablets. It's important. Something I found a bit odd, were none of the kids thinking like, oh, that's the caretaker from the school? the Doctor was at the school for a few days, wasn't he, earlier this series? And they didn't have like a mind wipe at the end. So why did none of the kids go, oh, that's the caretaker, that's Mr. Smith, the caretaker from the school? They all just go, oh, it's the Doctor, the new guy with the spaceship. But they didn't think to mention at all. I mean, Courtney wasn't here, to be fair, but like, these kids would have been at that school. They'd have probably seen the caretaker and they'd have probably seen the blue box. So I don't know why none of them are like, oh, Doctor, because it's like in Series 10. In Knock Knock, Bill's university friends know who the Doctor is because he teaches at the uni, and they're like, oh, Doctor, give him a high five and stuff like that. Just something like that would have been cool if you're going to have the same kids who the Doctor was a caretaker at the school of. It seems like they would know who he was, if that makes sense. Well, it would make sense, wouldn't it? A line that got me, it was quite chilling, was Clara when she's like, Doctor, I want to live, but I don't want to be the last of my kind. And that was really sad because obviously the Doctor's the last of his kind, if you didn't know. And I just found that really quite like gut punching. I felt like I was the Doctor. I got secondhand ghost symptom, whatever it's called, phantom pain. And it just did feel like a big punch to the stomach. Like, imagine your best friend telling you that they don't want to end up like you. It's deep. But I do like the line from the Doctor where he says, you forget the forest ever came here, but you remember the fear and you use it in fairy stories. And that explains why we always have, like, in Hansel and Gretel, there's a forest, in Little Red Riding Hood, there's a forest, and things like that. It's just a cool thing that Doctor Who does where it takes real life fears and implants it in the show and gives a bit of an origin or a second reason as to why we might think that way. That was good. I really liked that. What I didn't like was the last bit where the girl's, Maeve's sister, Annabelle, comes home. It just completely ruins the mood. Like, I understand what they're doing. You're meant to be like, oh, it's meant to be triumphant. And I could see myself getting emotional over that if it wasn't so goofily done. She's in a bush with her eyes poking out and the bush disappears and, oh, there's the missing daughter. That's not how missing people cases work. They don't just come home when you ask. Like, normally when people go missing, they've got a very serious problem going on in their head or just in their lives in general. And hearing their little sister say, come home, isn't going to make them come home. Like, and if they were going to come home, they wouldn't hide in a bush. It's so goofily done. And also, like, I don't know why it's in there. I think it's in there just to have that moment at the end. It doesn't benefit the story in any way. Not in a single way to have the missing person thing there. That's the thing that ticked me off the most about this. Not even the medication thing like it does for most people. The fact that they treat a missing people case, a missing person case, like, just to put in full circle, like there was nothing developed on it. They did a Gervais. I call it a Gervais because I'm not a big fan of the way Ricky Gervais writes things. Besides Merchant, when he's partnered with Merchant. And Ricky Gervais tends to just put things in the script just so they can come back later. Best examples in Afterlife. Every Afterlife episode is formulated the same way. And in Afterlife, there'll be an episode where one of his friends, who's a girl, will be like, oh, I've never said the C word in my life. And then later on, she's on a date and the man's a bit of a knob to her, so she says that she calls him the C word. And it's like, well, Ricky, you've clearly just put that in there just so she can say it later, so it seems like it's clever. But nothing's ever developed on it. They've put that missing girl in there just so she can come home at the end and not develop on anything else. And that annoys me. That really winds me up, and I think that is stupid and silly, personally. I don't like it. But Missy's getting me excited. I think Missy, was she the one who put the solar flare on Earth, maybe? Trying to wipe them all out so they go to the nether sphere? I don't know, but I'm excited to see Missy next episode. She's really, really good. She's my favourite incarnation of the Master. Sorry, spoilers. I gave a spoiler warning, I'm sorry. But yeah, I love Missy, and I love this finale. This series follows more of an RTD1 structure. I think I've said this already, where it's all standalone episodes, but there's an ongoing thing that's teased, and in the finale it all comes to life. Whereas Moffat normally does more serialised things. But I quite like this. It's a different change. I think Moffat wanted to take a little bit of a break from being the showrunner and just write the finale. And then he wrote Listen, and he worked on Time Heist and The Caretaker and Into the Dalek and stuff like that. So I don't know. I like Series 8, and we're coming to an end now, which is quite sad. So yeah. But that's my thoughts on In the Forest of the Night. I remember it being a lot worse than it was. I actually enjoyed it. So if you think you don't like it, maybe give it another go. I'm going to rank this episode it's still the worst of the series. 3.5 out of 5 is what I'm going to rate the Caretaker in the Forest of the Night. I like this episode. It's pretty good. It's decent. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's crap? Do you think it's alright? Let me know in the comments. If you want to help me out, you can subscribe with the notification bell on. There's a hype button near the comments. You can press that. That'll boost my video out to loads more people. Comment, that helps as well. If you want to help me out in a monetary way and you get a shout out at the end of every video, you can leave a super thanks in the comments for a couple of quid, or you can become a channel member, you get a shout out, and you also get access to member only videos. But don't do that if you don't want to. You absolutely don't have to. And I know everyone says this and they're like, oh, but please, seriously, I don't mind. You don't have to. But if you want to, the option's there. Thank you for watching, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Ta-ra.